Morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Live and Stand Cloud podcast. We are here with Pastor Justin Larkin for Northeast Christian Church. Pastor Justin, I'm looking at your slogan and your whole ethos for this church right now behind the camera, which is Pray for One. Can you talk to us a little bit about Northeast Christian Church and why is that your entire mantra here in this church?
Yeah, kind of like a mantra in a sense like that. I feel like it's a little bit more than a mantra. Actually, it's originated with another preacher. His name is Bo Chauncey, really great preacher. He came up with that idea of praying the will of God in a sense like that. And this is the biggest, probably, will of God that everybody comes to know him. And so when we pray and we ask, pray for one simply means, God, give me one person to share your love with.
Sure.
And you're just praying that simple prayer. Sometimes you have a name, sometimes you don't. And like when you pray that, you can have confidence that's a prayer that God wants to answer. Yeah. And so that's become not necessarily maybe a mantra, but more of, I would like to say, more like the DNA of our church. Like we're trying to live out the Great Commission. We're trying to really reach the world, not doing it in like a forced way, but in a real natural, organic way. And we know that our God's a God that saves, and he wants all to come to know him. And so that's been that prayer.
We want to give a huge shout out and special thank you to all of our amazing sponsors. First off, 4 Aces Junk Removal, your one-stop shop for junk removal, demolition, and dumpster rentals. They make junk disappear. We also want to thank United Construction Solutions. They've been around from the get-go. Your local pros for all your construction needs, from renovations to new build. And our venue sponsor, Complete Construction. They've been amazing, allowing us to record some of our episodes there. They're dedicated to building a stronger community, residential and commercial, one project at a time. They also build playgrounds and swing sets. Thanks again for all of our sponsors. Check out these amazing local businesses, and don't forget to like and subscribe our podcast.
It's interesting. It's evolved. So like we didn't put a name to it till, we didn't put Pray for One up there until probably 2016 or 2017, right around then. But I became the lead pastor of this church like 14 years ago when my middle son was born. And I remember about 13 years ago, real rough. Things weren't good. And like you look around, like these aren't the chairs that were in this building, but it was different chairs. They were really ugly chairs. They're like pink. All right. I know you don't go pink chairs. But like right over there, I would pray over chairs and I would just come across the whole thing. I'd pray over chairs. And I had a guy that was sitting over there and I would just pray over every chair for the people that were in it. And somebody said to me this last week, they said, hey, we're gonna need some more chairs. And I thought that was awesome because I'm sitting there going, you're right. And we've got a parking issue, because me praying over all these chairs naturally became Pray for One. Okay. So it's not just me praying, it's our whole congregation, because I realized that this isn't just a one-man show. This is all of us working together. And so when all of us are working together, guess what? Those prayers are awesome. They work. Yeah. So that's where that comes from.
Okay. And so your personal history, touch on that a little bit more. When did you start? How long have you been involved in the church? Things like that. And how has that journey for you evolved up to this point?
It's a long story. We'll
hit the high level.
We'll hit the high points, I guess you can say. But just so you kind of know, I've been in 2 churches so I'm 47 years old. I've been in 2 churches. The first church was an Episcopal church as a youth minister. And the priest wanted me to become a priest. I'm not priest material. I'm no priest. But after that, I came here, and at 21 years old, and I'm not seasoned. Sure. I'm not been in the church my entire life. I became a Christian at the University of South Florida through Campus Crusade for Christ. I had been there for a year and a half of not being a Christian, and if you've ever been to Tampa, Ybor City, you know what it's like for college students. Yeah. And so that's the life I lived. And prior to that, in high school, I was like that as well. I didn't become a Christian until I was 20 years old. And then I started my journey then. Didn't grow up in the church. I do have a Catholic background. So my dad, and that background, very simple, is that I was baptized Catholic. My dad wanted it. And so that's the only real thing there. But I do understand the Catholic Church. I've been in it enough. I was in the Episcopal Church enough to know all the prayers and to do all the motions and to do all that and go through all that. But when I came here, it was rough. It was really difficult. and I never applied for a job. I know that sounds weird. Even at the Episcopal Church, I never applied for a job. I never brought a resume in because I went there just attending. And I remember the priest came up to me and said, I'd like to talk to you about how, some opportunities here at the church. And I said, yeah, sure. And in my mind, I'm just 21 years old or 20 years old at the time. And I'm thinking to myself, all right, whatever he wants to do, because that's what I was doing. I was servant, and that's how I viewed myself. And I didn't think of anything else. I just said, whatever he wants me to do. Even if he wants me to clean toilets, I'll just go clean toilets. And I walk in there, and I'd already in my head agreed to do whatever he asked me to do. He said, hey, can you be my youth minister? And I was like, ugh. I was ready to clean toilets. I wasn't ready to do youth ministry because I'm like I said, I'm not that guy. I'm not seasoned. I don't know what I'm doing. I study the Bible very minimal, and I'd only been a Christian for a year at this point. And eventually I prayed over and I said, yeah, I'd like to do this. I did it, and it was absolutely horrible. It was the worst experience of my entire life.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, very bad. The guy that hired me, great man, awesome man. Sure. Following that guy, because like I said, I was there a year. He was there less than a year. The guy that hired me, he ended up leaving. He had some issues, some struggles that he had to deal with, and the guy that came in just ripped me up. Because here I am. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. And he's, yeah, you're right. You don't know what you're doing. You're horrible at this.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
He told me I was horrible. And I was like, okay, cool. So I ended up leaving shortly after that, and I just started attending here. Mm-hmm. I was just coming to church, sitting in the chairs and listening to the sermons, and I started volunteering in youth ministry, and I think I was here for 2 months, and their youth minister got fired. And they came up to me and they said, hey, you want a job? And I was like, seriously, again? And like I said, I never applied for any of these jobs. I just
get in it.
Right place, right time. And then
the opportunities came to you. Yeah.
Evolved.
They all came to me, and so I did. And then I was youth minister for 10 and a half years, almost 11 years. And then our lead pastor, I actually have seen 2 lead pastors through that time. So come and go. And the one that hired me, he left. And then there was another one, he left. And after that second one that left, the elders of the church asked me to step into the role. Nice. And I was like, and I wasn't hesitant. And I'll be honest with you, I've been in the ministry for 11 years, and I felt like I knew more, but there was a part of me that was like, I don't know at all what I'm doing when it comes to leading an entire congregation. I'm clueless. And sometimes I still feel like that. But
and how long ago was that?
That was 14 years ago.
Oh, that's right.
14 years ago. Like I always attribute it with my middle son,
yeah.
Tobias, yeah. But I ended up taking it, and it's been an interesting journey. Lots of ups, lots of downs, a lot of good, a lot of bad too. I'll admit it. I think that's this part that people don't realize in ministry is that it's not always just rainbows and butterflies.
Well, nothing ever is.
No, it definitely isn't. So
there's always something, always challenges.
Absolutely.
So what can you expect? What can parishioners expect from this church, different from other churches locally?
I don't know if it's different from other churches and stuff like that, but I think when you come into these doors, what you're going to get is, I'll just speak on behalf of who we are and who I am and who my staff and eldership is. Like I said, I don't know if this is what other churches are or aren't, but I think that when you come into this church, you're gonna get a group of individuals that are genuine. They're not putting on any kind of shows. They're not trying to be anything that they're not. That was probably, like I said, I talk a lot about like the ups and downs of ministry. There were a few times that I actually tried to get out. I tried not to do ministry anymore. There was one time I actually quit. I actually quit this job, and then the elders didn't let me, which isn't supposed to happen. That's not how things work in any job. If you quit, they go, okay, let's start finding a new person. I quit one time, and they said no. I was like, that's not how this works. But that's part of what I love about this congregation too, is like they actually genuinely care about each other. And they showed that to me. Because here's the deal, like I said, every job has its ups and downs, and the reality is that ministers are just like everybody else. We're not special. We're not, in my personal opinion, I don't think we're special. Some people might say that, but I don't think we are. We're just regular fellows and people, and we have the same struggles and same issues that everybody else has. People might not realize that, and my elders realize that, and were able to help me and support me, encourage me to get into a very healthy place so that I can just be me, and I can be a congregation. So you're going to get, at Northeast Christian Church, you're going to get a genuine congregation They genuinely love each other. They genuinely love God. They're not trying to be something that they're not.
Sure.
And that was probably, I do think it does come from the top down. So like for me, I'm not trying to be anything else. We're a church that was planted by Kissimmee Christian Church right here, right down the road. Great church, love them to death. At the time, it was 1981. Ross Pepper planted our church. Ross Pepper, minister over there, he was fantastic. He's retired now. Wonderful man, love the guy to death. This guy remembers everything. Like he remembers every detail about you. He remembers, I would go out to lunch with him and people would be like, hey, do you remember me, Ross? And then he'd be like, yeah, Stacy, I totally remember you. How's your daughter, Louise, doing? He just remembers every detail.
Wow.
Me, I once called a guy Phil for an entire year, and his name was Cliff. And so,
Oh my God.
So there's a part of you that wants to be, you're like, I would like to be like him. And we always have that, we want to be like other people, we want to model other people's qualities. And there was part of me that kind of wanted to be like that. And then they had another pastor there named Jim Book, and he's a great pastor and amazing man of God, great preacher. And there was a part of me that was like, okay, I want to be like that. I kind of want to model like that. And then it got to a point where none of that worked because it's not real.
Yeah.
And so I just had to say, how about this? I don't want to be the next Ross Pepper. I don't want to be the next Jim Book.
You got to be yourself.
I'm going to be the first Justin Larkin.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's where I told our worship leader, his name is Dana King, best worship leader, I'm going to say in Florida, okay? Florida, not even Central Florida, Florida. I'm sorry if anybody disagrees with me, they can come talk to me. But he and I sat down one day and I just said, I'm going to be me, you be you, let's have some fun. And he goes, I can do that. And so that's what we've been doing ever since. And so you can come here, you're gonna have a genuine group of people that love God, love others, not trying to be something they're not, and we're gonna have fun too. We're gonna laugh, we're gonna have fun. Worship will be amazing. It's gonna be heartfelt, led by a man, Dana King, that has an amazing heart for people in the church.
Sure.
And you're gonna have an amazing children's ministry too, that just cares for the kids so much, and people that care for the kids. And our youth ministry is top notch. I'll tell you what, our youth minister is absolutely amazing. There was only, and I hate to say it, comparably, she's better than me, okay, when I was a youth minister. I think so personally, because she does some stuff that I was like, that's really good. That's really great. I'm like, I wish I would have thought about that 14 years ago when I was
That's why you're there and I'm here.
Exactly. So yeah, that's what you get at Northeast. But overall, more than anything, I think you're just going to get a bunch of genuine people. That's I hope to.
And I can attest personally to the welcoming atmosphere. For a while, I was baptized and I was going to City of Life. A girl I was dating took me there around the same time that you and I discussed on camera before. Pretty much within the same year, I got my last kidney transplant, which ironically, if I don't believe in coincidences, but today is the 5th year anniversary of that transplant.
Oh, wow.
So,
congratulations.
Thanks. So I started going there, and then Devin Willoughby, who's been in here for the longest time, he invited me. He's, hey, I'm going to start going back to church, because him and I had listed some land in Punta Gorda. I took a 3-hour trip down there, and we just talked about faith, and he was struggling a little bit, and I was just pointing him in the right direction. I'm like, man, just go in, just do it, just go in. And so a couple months after that, he was telling me, oh, I'm back in it. I just want you to come with me one week. And I was like, someone, again, ironically, a couple weeks before that, had told me, like, I guess it's your job as a Christian, if someone invites you to a church, you should probably attend.
I like that.
And I'm like, okay. So I came in with him, and then it just stuck from there. He kept inviting me. He was like, hey, you coming back? I'm like, okay, yeah. I'm just naturally disciplined, habitual person anyways. And then my mother had a really hard year this past year. And I invited both my parents in, obviously, because my dad was like, I would really like to go, but I think your mother needs you to invite us. So I was like, okay, I'll do that. And then all of a sudden I have 4 people walking in with me every Sunday after that. But I was just like, all right, I guess that's what I do. I just help people get into the church and lead them to this. But my testimonial is everybody's very welcoming, right? Like, I've been to 2 other churches where it's passive. I'll walk in, shake hands, stuff like that. But here, people literally introduced me to people, and then people took time to actually talk to me and my parents. So they made them feel welcome, and they were like, oh yeah, I love it, and we're going to come back. So
that's awesome.
That's my testament to the welcoming atmosphere that you guys have.
I appreciate that, because I'll be honest with you, it hasn't always been like that. And that, like I said, that's part of this kind of ebb and flow thing that has happened with us. Like I said, there's been good, there's been bad, but there were times where we got comments like, I remember getting a comment back one day. They were like, your church is not a welcoming church. Your church is a cold church. And it was many years ago. And I'll be honest with you, like for me, like that, because I love everybody. I don't care who you are, I don't care where you come from. I can find some way to talk to anybody, have a good time, and just get to know you. I feel like I'm easy to talk to. Some people say I'm a little intimidating, but I don't think so at all.
No,
I'm like, no. Usually it's intimidating when I'm on the jiu-jitsu mats and stuff like that. Or when I used to go to the gym, I'm like, this isn't fun, this is work, and I'm sweating profusely. I don't look like I'm having a good time, because I'm really not. I'm doing it for...
I think it's that quiet intensity.
It might be that.
Jiu-jitsu, but it's also, I could tell just with the way you operate on stage and the fact that you do jiu-jitsu and go to the gym, you're just disciplined. It's that quiet intensity of, I'm here to work, I'm here to get a job done.
It's routine too. Yeah. I'm a creature of routine. If you take me off from my routine, I am crazy. I'm absolutely nuts. I'm gonna be off my routine today because my wife is going away for a trip and I'm gonna be a mess. I'm gonna be a total mess. I'm like, I don't know what to do with myself. But anyways, I had someone say that this congregation is not warm, it's not welcoming. I'm not gonna lie, I stood up in front of the congregation and I told them.
Right.
I said, this is what happened. This is who somebody thinks we are, and this is not who we are. And so we addressed it. Since then, like, it's intentional, but it's not intentional as a fake thing. It's just intentional saying, hey, listen, you're a child of God, and there are people out there that don't know God, or maybe they do know God, or maybe they're struggling, or maybe they haven't been in the church for a long time. Like, it's our job to help them. Like, we are supposed to help each other. We're supposed to be there for each other. We're supposed to encourage each other. And like, that right there that's who we are called to be. Let's just be that. Let's stop trying to, I don't know. Sometimes we get in our own heads, and I'm one of those too. I get in my own head, and sometimes I get in a bad mood, but I got to push past that for myself, but also I look at all the blessings I have. I'm like, there's no reason for me to be the way upset or anything. But yeah, it's intentional, but it's still organic. It's just people being genuine. So I appreciate that.
That's good. And then you have a lot of community events, right? You have Easter coming up, and can you talk a little bit about your events?
Yeah, I'll be real with you, we don't do everything, all right? Because, like I said earlier, we're just people. I'm running around like crazy right now. This is the craziest time of year for me because I have 2 boys in lacrosse, high schoolers in lacrosse, and I got a 1.5-year-old that's terrorizing everybody. And so it's a big span of kids. But that's how we planned it. We were just like, hey, let's have 2 kids, and then 14 years later, let's have another one. Let's do that. We didn't plan that. It's crazy right now. I'm literally, this week alone, I have not been home at night. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday I was out. Last night I went jiu-jitsu. Tonight I'm at another lacrosse game. Tomorrow I'm at 3 lacrosse games, and then it's the end of the season. And then we've got a week where I have 1 playoff game for lacrosse. I don't have to do pretty much anything else. I'm going to be going to jiu-jitsu though, because that's my mental health stuff.
It is.
But then Easter week we're packed. But we try not to do too much, but we do have Easter on Sunday, and we'll have an Easter egg hunt for kids. Yeah. It's just little things like that. I think probably more the bigger community impact instead of like big events like that, because we've done the big events and we like them and they're not bad, but they're not, I don't know if they do enough for the community. Like I'm more proud of our involvement with the Place for Grace than any event that we do. All right. Place for Grace ministry in downtown St. Cloud that we have some connections here.
Yeah.
I was Northeast Christian Church, and I'm proud to say that we were a part of helping to develop that and start that. And honestly, it started at the gym with me and Ken Gilbert. He knew me in youth ministry. He knew me from Harmony FCA. I would go out there and I would speak for Harmony FCA. Sometimes my youth would lead worship out there too. And he knew me from that. And we were talking, and I was telling him that it was put on my heart that Osceola County's got a major homeless problem. And I remember saying to my lead pastor at that time, I was like, hey, Osceola County's got a great homeless problem. And he barked back at me. He's like, I don't see any homeless people. I don't see any homeless people at all. And I was like, is that for real? Because just open your eyes, look around.
What part of town do you live in, sir?
Yeah, you don't live where the homeless people are. I live on the state streets.
Yeah.
And you see a lot more there. And so in Osceola County, just because of 192, it's got one of the biggest homeless populations ever. And so that's really what started. I talking to Ken about it, and we started with just like once a month in the VFW downtown St. Cloud, giving out sandwiches. Started as that, and then it became, they got a building. We have a thrift store there that funds the whole ministry, but it doesn't just do that. It feeds those that are hungry on Thursday nights. Right now, they do GED classes, they do sewing classes, they do all kinds of different things that help to people get back. They do caseworks where they can help people connect with the different programs that are in the area to help them get better and help them get back on their feet. And so we have been able to be a part of that. I organize the meals and stuff like that. I send out reminders for the teams. And it's not just our church. I will say that in my church, I have 5 core groups and a youth group, and all of them are in the rotation for serving a meal. So I'll be there next Thursday serving a meal and get to do the devotion, get to hang out with all the people. I'm more proud of that right there than anything else.
That's good.
Because that, I think, it's an ongoing thing. And like we talk about doing mission trips, and we've done mission trips before, and we'll do mission trips again. We'll go overseas again, but I feel like the mission in your hometown is probably one of the most important ones. And so that's probably what I'm most proud of. And I've seen the most growth and benefit from that. And not just for the church, but I see it for the community. Like like that right there. And I can say that our church is intricate in that.
Yeah.
And that I love it. You know?
Yeah. It's the things you don't see as well, like walking testimonial. I got my GED at a Place for Grace.
I didn't even know that. And when we met,
awesome.
And so, that was 6-7 years ago at this point, something like that. But if I hadn't have made that jump to do that and walk into that building, not knowing this, funny how life comes full circle.
Exactly.
Like I wouldn't be on the stage talking to you right
Exactly.
now doing this
Exactly.
because that was my introduction into the workforce. Like because of medical issues, I was on disability for a long time, and I dropped out of school in 6th grade. Not a lot of people know that. Especially those people that talk to me at high-end real estate levels, and they're like, "You're super smart. Do you have a college degree?" I'm like, "No, I dropped out in 6th grade." Like, wait, what? But like that started there. Went into a Place for Grace, got my GED, my photos on the wall. Miss June's just wonderful person, absolutely wonderful person. And I brought a couple other people to her to help them as well. So it started there, and now it's come all the way back around to here.
Yeah.
So it's those things you don't see as well, like just those kids going out that may drop out of school but want to continue their education just to get back in the workforce and continue things. Yeah. That's also what you're doing.
Yeah, I sit there, that's really cool because I sit there and I go, if Ken and I don't take a break from lifting weights and actually talk to each other on that day, then maybe that doesn't happen. That's the crazy part if you think about that. And like I said, we've been around since before it was just like, okay, let's make a whole bunch of sandwiches and let's just feed some people that are hungry. And that's important, but I like all the other stuff. I love the GED program there. I love the case working there. I love that, and I want to be able to help that to grow more so that we can reach more people, that we can help more people. It's a rough ministry over there. It's difficult. It's really difficult, and because some people don't really want to be helped, and that's really sad. I'd like to see more programs get developed that help to get people back on their feet a little bit more. There's a lot that needs to be done, and I would rather be focusing in the community on stuff like that than, like I said, I like the fun stuff. I'm a fun guy. I like having fun. You know that. But that's the kind of stuff that's a part of our DNA. Like we are called to serve. Like I tell my group or new people that come in, I share values. First and foremost is God's word, then it's relationships, and then it's service. And they all blend together. They all go together. They go right ahead with our vision to love God, love others, and live to serve. And so like I tell everybody, serve inside the church someplace, but I also say, but we expect you to serve outside the church. And so that's where Place for Grace comes in. That's that practical, right there in front of your face thing that's in your community that you can serve, you can be a part of. And you don't realize that if you go there and you just give somebody a meal, like how much that actually means to them. Like we bring our kids. Like my kids go there and serve, and that's one of the things I've taught my kids. I'm like, this is who a Larkin is. Yeah. This is what Larkins do. We help people. And so we go out there, and so every single one of my sons they've grown up serving at a Place for Grace. And like they know. They have youth group, they go now with the youth group without me. I love that. They go there with me. They all know them as my boys. And I got one that's taller than me right now, which really is uncomfortable. I can still take him in jiu-jitsu, don't worry. But for now, hey, he's not training. We're good.
Okay.
So it's lacrosse season. So he's out of shape. No, that's more of like that community involvement, what we do in the community. That is what I'm most proud of right there, and excited to continue to do that. So
That's good. That's good.
So a couple of other on-topic. One, you talked about jujitsu, so we'll get to that. A little bit of what you do in the community outside, where people can find you, recognize you, things like that.
Yeah.
Two things I wanted to touch on is the timing that we're sitting down, because as we've spoken, Easter's literally right around the corner.
Yes.
And we have a lot going on for Easter, and that's often when most people get invited to church. So one, do you see a lot of growth around this time, with people coming in and staying? And then we'll touch on another subject I wanted to touch on after you answer that.
So yes, in a sense. It's not going to be, when it comes to Easter is not an immediate growth thing. Like, I've been in this for 24 years, at this one church for 24. Next year will be 25 years. Wow. And what I've noticed is that Easter is a really good kind of projection of where you'll be closer next year. So, and it might be within a frame, but like, you do see growth. It's like you'll see people that come to church on Sunday that don't normally come. And I've got no problem with that. Some people are like, they don't like that, which I don't particularly. Somebody's got to get there somehow. I actually have a friend that I'm trying to get to church, and I invited him last year to Easter, and he's, I don't want to come on Easter. I'd rather come on a regular day. I was like, I can appreciate that, but you still haven't come. So let's make something work here. And so you do see some growth and everything like that. And that's the thing too. One of the things that we don't do, we might do a little different stuff on Easter, but we're pretty much going to do the same services we do every week, because I don't want it to seem anything different. If we come up here and put it like on this extravagant display, and then the next week they come back and they're just like, oh, it's just this guy talking, this sucks. No, I'm trying to be genuine, trying to be real. This is who we are. This is what we do every single week. We study God's word. We worship, and we're not going to put on a show for anything. The only time we do something special will be like when Christmas, when there's the kids come up and do special stuff. Sure. And usually that's just us chasing them around. That's really what happens. So they're kids. What else can you do? Make sure they don't knock over the elderly people. That's part of my job too. Can
you touch, before we get into more personal topics, touch on a couple of the things you have with the community inside the church, like the men's group. I love that in the men's group we do books all the time, because I'm a reader.
Yeah.
Some of don't we have the women's excursion coming up?
Yeah, the ladies are going to Lake Aurora this week. So the men's ministry, I love that. I'm real big on men being leaders, men being men and taking their spirituality serious, being the leaders of the household and also in the church. And I am big on that. And so I push that hard. I push the men's group hard. And it's just a breakfast. We come together, we'll eat together, we'll joke around, and then we'll do a lesson. I typically do books and things like that. I'm actually changing over to a different book I think I'm doing it next week. It's not tomorrow, right. Because I got to be in Melbourne. And so we're doing it that week. And I'll tell you what, it's good because I love how most of the men open up, they talk. When you've been there, you talk a lot. And I appreciate that much, sharing so much. And it helps with the fellas just to take their spirituality serious. This isn't just show up and be there. It's show up, let's talk, let's get to know each other. Let's be, transparent. Yeah. Let's be transparent, because that's like, even the last one we did, we talked about regrets. And I'll tell you what, man, some of these guys just were like, I regret. And they shared some stuff that I was shocked. Like, it was beautiful, but I was like, yeah, I get it. And like, they don't do it. It's not like a touchy-feely thing or anything like that, but it's genuine, just people going, I regret this, I regret that. And that's the cool part too. It's not just guys our age or something like that. Yeah. It's from 88 years old down to 13 years old. Like, we get our high school boys in there too. So like, both my sons come, and about 4 other teenagers come, and that's it. And we do that on purpose. Like, we're intentional, because we're like, hey, we want to teach these how to be young men. We want to teach these young men how to take their spirituality serious. So we have that for the men, which is fantastic. The women's been like developing over the years, and I think they've got a really great thing that they're doing now. It's led by my wife and a couple of the other, our youth minister. We have a connections pastor too that helps out. Those are both part-time. She helps out with that as well. But basically, like this week, they're going to Lake Aurora for the women's retreat, which is like really hard to get into. You don't understand. This is like our ladies have not been able to go to this retreat for 4 years.
Wow.
Like it was so hard to get into. Like I had to buy the tickets ahead of time, like the day. Like when does it come out? It comes out on this. It opens up this day at this time, and I was like, buy 10 tickets immediately at that time, and they did. And so we were able to do that so they can actually go. And so they're going this weekend. All the men stay back, watch the kids. Let's pray for them, okay? But they do that. But normally what they're doing right now is they're doing a similar kind of to us, but they'll do like a coffee and pastry kind of thing on a Sunday at 4 o'clock here at the church. And either my wife or one of the other ladies are teaching a lesson and doing discussion. And it's actually, I think even just this past year, it's gotten way, way better. Like they're doing really good. They're starting to get some traction, getting more ladies involved. And I love that. That's one of the things that has been big on my heart is to develop the women's ministry, to work with ladies together. So we got those things going too. Like I said, our youth group, and like I said, I'm really proud of the youth group. I look at this youth group and I look at the kids that are involved in it, and it's fantastic. It's freaking fantastic. Like the kids are really, they take their faith serious. Our youth minister, Erica Spencer, she does an amazing job with the kids. She's been with us for 2 years. And interestingly enough, all right, so Erica she was actually a member of our church for about a year. Our youth minister left, and I had to read resumes. I start going through resumes for news, which is the worst in the whole entire world. I hate reading resumes. They're so boring. I get this one resume, and I start reading it, and it's cracking me up. It's like hysterical. Like it's not your traditional point-by-point thing. This is my work experience. This is what I did. You know, it's literally something that I would write up or something like that. That is
couple knock jokes here and there.
Oh man, I was laughing. I'm literally chuckling. And Faye's, what are you reading? I'm like, this is a resume. And so I ended up bringing her on and hiring her, and she's done a great job with the students. And you see that because they're starting to bring their friends. They start to bring their friends, and the youth group is growing tremendously, but they're bringing their friends to church. And then we also have a young adult ministry that Mr. Jed Peters leads. And he's 21 years old. He's still in college right now, but he's leading a young adult ministry, which is your college age group. And so I like that because we have students coming from our youth ministry that graduate, and a lot of times they don't know really what to do with themselves after high school. If they stick around, they get lost. But now we have this ministry that transitions into that helps them to transition into just being a part of the church as well. That ministry I'm very proud of. We just started that 2 years ago. It's about a year and a half old, and that's not a lot of churches are really doing like that young adult ministry. It's almost, hey, you're a youth, now you're an adult, get to work. I'm like, they ain't really adults yet. They're adult-ish, you know? Yeah. So let's work with them a little bit more. And so that's been great. That's been a great ministry. In my new members class, which was Wednesday night, two of the people that attended that were part of that young adult ministry. Oh, man. And you're starting, so that it's not just like they're just doing that and nothing else. They're a part of the congregation too. And that's something that we're trying to be intentional with. Like for example, and then when it comes to youth ministry, we're intentional on this, that the youth, when you get to 6th grade, you're in here with us. You're in here with us, all right? We're not gonna, 6th grade. We encourage them to come in here. You're in here with us, all right? And you don't have Sunday school class in the back, all right? Our youth group does a thing called Selah time before the service, 30 minutes before the service, where they go there and they do some time of reflection and prayer, and then they come to service. They have my notes. They have like my verse or whatever, or notes before that our youth ministry uses to prepare them, and then they come into the service and they worship with us. We don't do Sunday school. We want them in here with us. We want to teach them what it's like to be a part of a congregation, because so many kids get lost in that.
What about the younger kids in the area?
Miss Jen King is our children's minister. She's been with us for very long. She's married to our worship leader, and Mr. Dana King. She's been our children's minister forever, all right? And she is the sweetest lady you'll ever meet in your entire life. I'll tell you what, man, she will do anything for anybody. Sometimes to a fault. I'll be like, hey, man, you need to maybe calm down. No, but she is amazing. Kids love her, and she does such a great job with helping them to understand that they are cared for, and then her hardest job, and I'll be real with you, I think the hardest position in any church is children's ministry.
Sure.
It's children's ministry because
imagine.
And mainly because of volunteers. It's so hard to get volunteers. Right. you ask, you beg, and sometimes people, and when you get you get the volunteers, and then if you bring more volunteers in, they're like, oh, now that you got more volunteers, I don't need to volunteer anymore. And you're like, no, that's not how this works. Let's all keep doing this so we don't all get burned out. And so she has probably the hardest job, and she does an excellent job. She works hard every single time, and that's stuff that we do here too. So she's an amazing children's minister. And in the back there, it's growing a lot. And I can't say enough of how much I appreciate her and all the other volunteers that are back there too. So
It's great.
yeah.
Excellent.
It's obviously everyone's part of the communion here, and it's great. Before we close out, I want to touch on a little more personal story and personal topics. Hopefully we're probably going to have you back because you and I can talk jiu-jitsu probably for another hour.
We definitely could.
Yeah, but I want to touch on the struggles of faith a little bit. Just like maybe share a story, because you having to be faithful for so many people and in front of so many people, you have to exemplify of, hey, this is why you have to be of faith. These are some things I've struggled with. You have to be that open person.
Yeah.
So in your life, where has some of those come up, especially like really hard times, and how has the Lord and Jesus helped you through a lot of those moments and instances, and how do you share that now?
Yeah, interesting. I was on the phone yesterday with a friend from college. I haven't talked to him for years, and we were on the phone talking. He was asking me pretty much the same exact question,
sure.
And because he went through some of the same stuff that I experienced. And I told you guys that I almost quit, that I actually did quit one time, and I did. When I took over this role as lead pastor, it was the current lead pastor at the time quit on a Tuesday immediately. Wednesday, the next day, I was asked, can you preach on Sunday? And I said, yes, I can. Now, mind you, at this point, I was struggling already because I was preaching Wednesday nights for youth group. I was preaching Sunday nights for a young adult service. And then I was preaching one Sunday a month in Sunday morning. That's a lot of preaching. And I was doing it all.
Sure.
All right. And then the lead pastor at the time asked me to preach another Sunday, so preach 2 Sundays a month. And I was like, I don't know if I can handle that. So I was actually looking at going someplace else. I was looking at saying, okay, maybe I need to leave. And then things happened. Like I said, I was getting burned out, but then things happened. He quits out of the blue, all right? He meets with the elders one night. The next night he quits immediately, and they asked me to preach the next Sunday. And I say yes, and I go, yeah, I'll do it. And I end up preaching throughout that summer. And one of my elders, I was sitting like over off to the side here. We were sitting on this stage, which is he and I, and he looked at me and says, you do know you're going to be the next lead pastor of this church. And I said, no, I do not know that. And so there was a part of me that was like, yeah, I want to, but there's a part of me saying, no, I don't want to, because I was struggling a little bit. But then I prayed over it, and I was like, yeah, I want to do this. I want to do this. That's the thing. I love this area. I love Osceola County. I love St. Cloud. I love this church. And I didn't want to leave it. I definitely didn't want to leave it. And so I did everything I could so I could stay. And so I took the role. I had to go through a vote. That's horrible. That's like the most depressing thing in the whole entire world, is having a congregation vote on you. They're like, and which is this, because, and just in case, pastors won't tell you this, but what happens, like, in most of your bylaws will say something like, you got to get 80% vote. What they don't tell you is that there's like a period of time where you're waiting for that. And so like I'm preaching and the congregation is starting to dwindle a little bit. So a handful of people stop coming because they don't like me. I'm too young, I'm too energetic, I make too many jokes, whatever the reason might be. And so you have a hand group of people that don't come.
Sure.
And then Vote Sunday comes in, and the hand group of people come back.
They come back.
And you're like, there's my nose. All right, here we go. It did pass. I got it. I was voted in a month later. My second son was born. That's when Toby was born. And then 2 months later, my dad passed away from cancer.
Oh, wow.
And I don't think I didn't realize what was going on at the time, but I was starting to struggle just personally and mentally.
Sure.
And so the next 5 years were horrible, were the absolute worst. And I went from excited to do ministry to, do I even want to do this anymore? And I didn't realize it, but I had become very depressed.
Sure.
I have my biggest regret is with my dad. My dad never knew Christ, and I struggled with that because I felt like a failure. When he first told me he had cancer, I didn't know what to tell him. I didn't know what to say. I was silent. And he literally said, and I remember these words, he said, Justin, you're the preacher, you're the minister in the family. You can't be quiet right now. But I didn't know what to say.
It's a lot of responsibility.
It is. And so I have that. I have this new role that's going horrible. I'm a dad again with a little one. And so it's just, I feel the pressure on top of me and everything's going down. Everything's spinning out of control. The first summer after I got, like the 1 year later, we were almost had to close the doors of the church. And then I'm thinking to myself, I just failed horribly. And those doors over there are going to be closed.
Yeah.
And this church that was planted in 1981 is not going to be around anymore. And so I went down a very dark hole. I started searching around. I said, maybe I need to leave. Maybe I need to go to another church and everything. And I interviewed for jobs. Mm-hmm. And I remember the moment that I felt the absolute worst is I was on a video call with a guy and he's, listen, you got a lot of great stuff. You're a really talented preacher. We like you, but you're just not, you don't have any success. Because here I was as a lead pastor, and my church is going downhill. And he basically said, you're not good enough. And that broke my heart, and that broke me. And so I just, literally, I remember, like, night after night, all my family would be asleep, and I would just be sitting down in the living room just in tears. Right. And then one day, I get, like, this email across my thing. It's like a spam email. And the title of it was Jesus Depressed. And it was talking, and I was like, and I knew it was spam, but I was like, I wonder what this says. This sounds dumb. And I clicked it, and it was talking about how he is described as a man of sorrows, and it's talking about him in the Garden of Gethsemane and the personal struggle he had. And I'm sitting there going to myself, it's describing depression, and it's describing Jesus experiencing this because he was fully man as well, as he's fully God. And then I'm going, oh no, this is me. And so I realized that I was severely depressed. And so I didn't know what to do with that. And that's when I started talking to my wife. I started talking to my buddy, and that's where the podcast came in, my buddy, Martin Bender. I just started talking to him. I started being open about it and everything. Sure. I wasn't open with the congregation about it yet. I definitely wasn't open with my elders either, or my staff. But I was still thinking I needed to get out of ministry. And I tried to get Kissimmee to take us back. I tried to say, hey, this was big when satellite churches were. And they're like, oh, how about Northeast be a satellite church of yours? And my idea was, I will stay on for a year as a campus pastor, and then I will gracefully bow out. And then I'll go do something that I can be happy in. I don't have to be depressed, like work at Home Depot. I saw a guy at Home Depot working. He looked so happy. And I was like, I want to do that. And I tried to do that. And I remember my elders came back one night and said, okay, we talked to their elders, they talked to us, and we spent like months talking with the other church. And we all agree on the same thing. I go, okay, what's the agreement? He goes, we're not doing it. And I just said, I quit.
Oh, that's when you quit.
That's when I quit. And they go, why? I said, I can't do this anymore. I said, I'm failed, I'm horrible, I'm not the man that this church needs. I feel like I feel pathetic. And I said, I'm not good enough. And that's when the elders said, no, you're not quitting. We love you, you are good enough, and we want you to be our lead pastor. It's almost like they were recommitting to me. And then they said, what do we need to do to help you? And we sat down for an hour, and it was just like, I was doing everything in this church, every little thing in this church. And they took so much off my plate so that I can just teach, and that I can meet with people, I can talk, I can do what I'm good at. Yeah. And they took a lot off my plate of little things that I was doing. And after I let a lot of that stuff go, and I told them I was depressed, I can't stop crying. There were times I would pull up to the church, and this was before the boys came with me, I would pull to this church and I'd have to dry my face off because I was like crying all the way to church. 5 minutes, wow. I start crying. And so I had to I was honest with them about that. And so they worked through it with me, the elders. And then my wife is absolutely amazing. She helped me with it. Martin helped me through it. I was just starting to be honest about it. And I was like, yeah, I'm depressed. I don't know why. Don't know how. I think it had a lot to do with just my insecurities. It had a lot to do with my dad, the way he passed away, and the pressure of ministry. And so it wasn't until I finally started to admit it that things started to change. Right. Yeah. And then that's when I stopped trying to do everything, is when God started doing everything. And it was And I look back at that and I'm like, I'm so thankful they didn't let me.
That's amazing. And that's where the faith comes in too.
Yeah.
That's important.
Yeah. It wasn't ever a thing of me losing faith. I always had faith in who he was. I don't think I had a faith in who he was using me to be.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. Like I at the beginning I told you guys, I used to pray over these chairs. And 14 years later, God's still working and he's doing more than he did in the very beginning. And I'm thankful that I'm here to see it.
Yeah, I am too. Very thankful for that. Because in that journey, like, I think a lot of people go through that man, woman, child, teenager when you're in that depressive state. It's just, that's where I found a lot of my faith as well, is just because Jordan Peterson was probably my introduction into a lot of it. Yeah. And reading the way he reads the word is just, that's your own hero's journey, right? As Jesus knew what his fate was. Yeah. But he still held his head up and walked firmly towards it, knowing knowing it was going to be all the responsibility on his back, literally us, the world, on his back, and he still marched forward towards it.
Incredible.
And we all have that journey in our lives. That was your journey to here in that life, is all of that responsibility on your shoulders, but still no one let you quit because it got you to where you are.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this right now, because like I said, I had a conversation with my buddy yesterday, and I don't want to say his name or anything, but his experience was very different than mine. Like he had tremendous success, but couldn't keep up. And his elders didn't understand. And he went through a lot, probably more depression than I even did. And he told his elders, and they said, there was a period of time they worked with him, but then there was a point they said, okay, we just need you to be better, and get to work. And he said, I did, and then when I was done because it was like a building project or something like that, when that one point got done, I quit. And I was like, that was the difference between his experience and my experience, is that I had an eldership, a leadership that looked at me and didn't see me as a pastor. They saw me as their brother in Christ, and they saw me as another member of the church and loved me and cared for me. And instead of just saying, be better, they said, what can we do to help you? That was the 9-day difference. And that's, like I said, when I said things come from the top down, I do believe it comes from them too. It's not just me, it comes from our eldership. They genuinely care about this congregation. And when I bring in new elders, I don't bring in elders that are good guys. I bring in elders that care, that are good guys and care. Oh, he's a good guy. That's usually how it is. We're a lot more intentional than that. And because I realize how much it means to the congregation, because how much it meant to me.
Yeah. One thing I heard recently was, and it struck me, was you could actually be despicable with permission of the Bible. Yeah. But you have to want to be a good person. Yeah. You really genuinely have to want to be a good person to live a good life. Yeah. And that really resonated with me. I was like, hey, I think being good is probably the hardest thing in life.
It is, yeah. It's a lot easier to be bad.
And with your story, I said this when we sat down with Jay with Theater in the Cloud. He was talking about acting. I feel genuinely the opposite of depression is expression. Once you were able to let that all go and get it out, there's a sentiment of giving up. I look at giving up differently. I look at giving up to the Lord, giving up what you're carrying inside to Him and just letting it go. There's so much strength in being able to let things go. Like, I'm sure you were carrying that for an incredibly long time.
Yeah.
It's really good, man.
It's
exhausting.
Able
to get through that.
It's exhausting, but like I said, and I do have a heart for other pastors. We think we put them on these pedestals, and the reason why we have all these things that happen in churches where people see pastors falling horribly is because of that. We put on these pedestals and we forgot that they're just men.
Yeah. We do that with everyone that's on a stage. That's anyone we somehow put above us. We do that too, and we shouldn't. At that point, we shouldn't do that with any man.
Exactly, but that's just that's been my experience. I'm excited for what God is doing and for where He's leading us. Like I said, years ago, I had these expectations when I first took over, and maybe I was too arrogant. I was too arrogant. I was too self-centered. I thought that I was better than I was. And so I have these expectations when things happened that I was taking over and things would just be like, and they didn't. And that crushed me completely and totally. But then to where it's built me up, where he has taken me from here and built me back up. I'm excited because I tell everybody, it's like, it's not, here's the deal. This isn't my show. This isn't what I do. This isn't about me. I'm the guy here standing and speaking, but it's not because I'm great. It's just because I'm being used. I'm allowing that to happen.
Yeah.
And
being of service.
The instrument.
Literally,
I'm just an
literally
instrument,
a being of service.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, the one thing I would, and one of my dreams is this, is that, like, when it comes to this church, I would rather people, like, know of Northeast Christian Church, but have no clue who I am.
Sure.
Who's the pastor there? Justin. Never heard of him. I would much rather that be.
We're not helping with that, sorry.
No, sorry. But I would rather than be like, know of Northeast and the genuine love that they have, the welcoming that they have, and what we do for children and youth and the community through a place for grace. I'd rather that be known, like, oh, we know Northeast Christian Church because of this and this. And I feel like the rest of our staff would feel the same way. They don't care about their name being known. They just want to be, just want to honor God, glorify God. They want to love him. They want to love others. They want to live to serve. And we want all to come to know him.
Yeah, agreed. All right,
great.
sir. We got people waiting to get in.
There are. This is a co-op group,
Yeah.
amazing co-op group that meets in our church, and they're patiently waiting outside. This is the Raising Arrows co-op. Excellent co-op. All right, wonderful kids, wonderful parents. I'll give a shout out to them too. They cleaned this church the other day. It was amazing, spotless. I was like, oh my gosh, can you guys do this more often? But no, they're amazing, fantastic. But yeah, we're intruding on their time.
Yeah. All right, Justin. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll see you
It was
Sunday.
a pleasure.
I really appreciate you.
I appreciate you, man. Thank you guys so much. This was fun.
Yeah.
So, I haven't done this in a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would love to get you back on just to do more jiu-jitsu, just to do more stories,
that's
things
cool.
like that.
I would not mind that at all. Let's do that. And because I'll tell you what, jiu-jitsu is a huge mental health thing for me. So it can be for everybody else too.
Agreed.
Yes.
Agreed.
Agreed.
All right, guys. I'm Dalton. This is Justin. That's Jason. As always, inviting you to find your way to live in St. Cloud. Thank you guys so much for joining us again.
Appreciate it. See you around.
Bye.